I'm hoping that after this workshop, you guys will be able to like build a lens from which to see organizational change and apply action research and systems thinking to be able to diagnose organizational change. What you need, identify leverage points for change, kind of like the crossing the edge workshop that we did earlier. But I'd like to start that with a story about intermittent fasting. If you're familiar with intermittent fasting, I was a bit above my average weight. And the doctor prescribed that I should start losing some weight. So she gave me a diet. And then I was searching around and somebody suggested you should try intermittent fasting. I did some reading. I consulted some of my friends who did it. They were highly recommending it. And so it's basically you reserve like about 6 hours or 8 hours of a window where that's the only time that you can eat, probably less, and the rest you drink water or you take coffee or like minimize your food intake. And the reason for that, I heard, and based on what I read, is that the body actually listens to your insulin level, your sugar level. And if there's too much sugar, the body starts creating insulin so that it can break down the sugar.
Ben, your screen just black. It's all blank at the moment. I don't know if it's meant to be or not, but I can't see anything. That's all.
Oh.
I think there's
anyone else?
There's a few people in the chat that have got the same problem.
Yeah, it's same for me.
So if I don't do full screen, can you see it?
Can see it now.
Okay, yeah. So let me instead share also the link.
Yeah. And I think you share the wrong screen. I see the iron.
Yeah, it shifted. Okay, so let me try again the share. Second desktop. Thanks for that. Okay, thank you for pointing that out.
Very good.
Yeah, when I switch to full screen, I guess. Yeah, I'll do this instead. So I think when I switch to full screen, it disappears. Okay. So what I was saying was the body regulates the sugar by producing insulin. So you try to reduce sugar by reducing carbs. So don't eat food at the start in the morning, because if you start eating like carbs and sugar, the body will detect that and start produce insulin, and that's gonna mess up your whole system. So I did it. I tried intermittent fasting, and about 3 months later, people started like asking me, "Are you okay?" And I was wondering, why are they asking me this? It turns out I lost too much weight that people got concerned. They thought I was ill. And so, and this is the key to this story. I realized I haven't been checking my weight. Okay. And so what I did was I started checking my weight. I lost about 20 pounds in like 3 months, which was really like bad. Like when I went back to the doctor, she became concerned too. So I bought a weighing scale and I started monitoring my weight. Okay, now what's the connection of that to organizational transformation? Like any change, we follow this 3-step change. It was originated by Kurt Lewin, and it's called the action research model, and it involves 3 things. First, you do research. You find options. So this is what I was doing when I was trying to lose weight. I was doing some research on like diets, and then you experiment. By doing like several alternatives, trying one alternative and measuring the improvement, and then get that feedback and use it to improve your situation. So it goes back to this whole loop all over again. I was able to do research in my personal story. I was able to do the experiment. What I failed to do was like check the feedback, this part over here. So when I bought the weighing scale and started checking like whether my diet was indeed working or whether my diet was like pushing it to the extreme, then I was able to control my, my diet and then my weight. Okay. If you look at this model, it actually represents Scrum and Agile, right? So this loop over here of building and releasing, planning, building and releasing, and then improving, that's basically empirical process control. You measure your progress and you look at the facts and do some observation. And then you feed it back and go back to your plan and change it accordingly. So this is that whole framework for organizational change that we're going to use and inject it with some systems thinking. So let's do our first activity. Hey, welcome back, guys. Just a quick synthesis on, is everyone in?
Everyone has to be in, yeah.
Quick synthesis. So this is just a preliminary introduction to like what the habits of a systems thinker would be. There are a lot of them actually, but I just wanted to give you the more familiar ones. And don't they kind of reflect Scrum, right? And the Agile mindset, like, let me share the screen all over again. For example, especially successive approximation, actually. This one.
We found that to be true.
Right? Yeah. Successive approximation.
You might have to swap your screen over again, Ben.
Oh, it's okay.
Apologies.
And turn off my. There you go. Thank you. Any interesting things that came out of the first part of this activity? I mean, activity 1 from the groups. You can type on chat or just turn on your audio. So Sam was saying successive approximation was true. They found it to be true. It was confusing to start. Yeah. Systems thinking can be confusing at the start, yep. and you need practice. Stuck on mental models. Yeah, we're going to deepen that in the next activity. So get started in a direction, take a measured approach to review progress, adjust the method. Yes. So somebody mentioned earlier, it's like the lean startup model, build, measure, and learn. So that's basically it. Yes. So Ruben, yes. So it provides us with, that's why I was referring to it as a lens, our analogy. It provides us with a way of seeing. And systems thinking actually encourages us to think more deeply, to reflect more deeply about the situation. So there are things there like, instead of doing a knee-jerk response, consider slowing down your response and then looking more deeply into what is causing this behavior. So that's another systems thinking behavior. The structure generates the behavior. So you think about what could be in the systemic structure that's causing this person to behave this way. So rather than blame it on specific people, we look into thinking more deeply into the root cause of how maybe the organization is causing this type of behavior. So I'm gonna jump to the next activity. And we're going to deepen that further. This one is the iceberg model, and I'm pretty sure you guys have already encountered this before. What it's saying is like only 10 to 20% of the whole ice mountain is visible to us, but the foundation is actually deeper and actually represents about 80 to 90% of the event that we're seeing. So our job as systems thinkers is to look more deeply into what's happening. Okay, so from events, we try to start looking into what patterns are there patterns emerging. Like, is this event occurring frequently, right? I have an example here in the next slide. This one, a company is trying to address tardiness and absences. The number of sick leaves is increasing. And the pattern is that they're becoming more frequent. And then attrition is beginning. So the company says, let's be more strict. Let's implement a policy that's more strict. Let's monitor the number of hours an employee actually spends in the office. Okay, so let's narrow it down to a team. We are having problems with team attendance, right? People are late, and we start monitoring. Like, we start implementing clock in and monitoring their hours at the office. What do you think happens there? Right, we're going to look deeper into that in the third activity. But for now, it's worth examining what is the mental model, or what is the assumption behind that KPI. Any guesses? Any guesses on what's the mental model behind that kind of KPI? Let's monitor the number of hours so that we can enforce more people coming in the office and spending more time in the office. Right, so the assumption here is that the members of your team will perform work at the office and are actually more creative at the office. Yeah, so they're saying that's a knee-jerk reaction of most orgs on attendance issues. Okay, can you hear now? Okay, so some of you can't hear. Okay, is it better? Okay, thank you. So, the knee-jerk response is a classic business school response, right? So, and this is, and sometimes what you learn from management school is often not behavior of systems thinking. So we have to really adopt this discipline of the habit of a system thinker to probe more deeply into the cause of these problems. So this is the next activity. So if you please go to the second work area, and it's in this link on slide 9. There's another set of activities there on iceberg principle. The activity is you guys select a case, a real case that you're encountering, either personal or work, and then apply the iceberg model. So ask yourself, what's the event? What are the patterns? What are the systemic structures that are causing this? And then what's the assumption behind that structure? So do you have questions on this?
Can you quickly summarize the example that you took for these events, patterns, and systemic structures, please?
Oh,
just
okay.
in under 1 minute.
Okay, so the events, these are the things that we observe right away, right? Jace, can you share again the link to the slide deck? Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
So we'll be sharing it in the chat box again. Often our analysis just comes from the events. We just observe the events and we start our solutions from the events itself. So if the problem is tardiness, let's force them to arrive on time and spend more time at the workplace. And often that kind of solution will lead to more problems. We look into the patterns. Why are people arriving late? Why are they not spending time at the office, right? instead of prescribing solutions to just the symptoms, which is the event level, we think about, we try to examine the problem more deeply by thinking about what are these patterns? Why are the people often late? What is causing this? So there might be other reasons for this. For example, maybe the workplace is not a safe environment to work in. Maybe there's a lot of interruption happening at the workplace, right? So they would prefer actually to work either late at night because nobody's interrupting them, or just work from home, or work home and then arrive late. Then there will be no disruptions. Maybe that's the reason. So we will never get into that unless we start examining the patterns. And then we examine what is causing that behavior. So in the example of tardiness, the work environment might be too disruptive, right? And the solution that was proposed is actually causing more problems, forcing them to spend more time in the office and to arrive early in the office. It's not giving the desired results, right? And then we start to examine, so there are two opposing solutions here. Work environment. So a desirable work environment. And we have to examine what mental models led to creating this solution, forcing people to spend more hours at the office. And then what mental models or assumptions came into thinking about it from changing the work environment instead. If you were given this, these two choices, what would you rather do? Will it be about forcing them to devote more time at the office and come in early, or is it the second one, desirable work environment? I guess that choice is obvious, right? Make the work environment better for work. So so for the exercise, think about one group member can propose like a case or an issue that they're trying to resolve, and then apply the iceberg model. Look at the events, what's happening, and then find out if these events are occurring frequently or regularly, and then examine what could be in the system that's causing the issues, and from there examine the mental models that's causing that problem, or the solution behind or the mental model behind the solution that you're proposing. Okay. Clear? Any other questions?
Ruben, in addition to that, I just wanted to confirm if the mental model was the assumptions focusing on the problem or the cause of the problem, or focusing on the solution to the problem.
Pardon me for not clarifying that. So the first step is actually looking at the problem. And so at the first step, when you're applying the mental model, you're looking into the cause of the problem. And your analysis actually, you need to examine what are the assumptions that are coming from your own analysis. So the knee-jerk analysis, right? And then when you start proposing solutions, you also examine the mental models behind those solutions. So it's both. That clear?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Any other questions? So Anthony's saying, in order to experiment with solutions, you have to inquire into the problem. That is deeper level inquiry. Yes, so we're trying to create the habit of thinking more deeply about the problem. In fact, so it's like a meta-analysis. We are examining how we are thinking about the problem, and then we are also examining the assumptions behind the solutions that we're proposing. Okay, so if there are no further questions, I guess, Jason, we can start. And for this, we have about 15 minutes also.
15 minutes for this one?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll set it to 15 minutes. I'll send people off automatically. and you'll have a 60-second countdown before coming back.
People are coming in. Hi, everyone. Welcome back.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Hey, Sam. Yeah.
We're back.
Hey, thank you. Welcome back. Still waiting. So, any interesting things that you surfaced using the iceberg approach?
Oh, yes.
And if you shared, oh, Sam, go.
Okay. So as I was telling Sammy, I go by Sammy when I shorten my name.
Oh, Sam.
That's okay. No worries. We had a great discussion. Our overall problem was not having enough work when we get to our sprint planning refined. So not having enough in our backlog refined. And so, hey, is the other Sammy available to share what he wrote down?
Yeah, sure. So as Sammy said, our pattern is don't have enough work in sprint planning to properly plan. The systemic structures that we came up with were unavailability of subject matter experts, unclear requirements, and team lacking technical skills to approach the problem and geographical issues. And then the mental models, sorry, it's not in a particular order, but work availability to start the sprint, issues need to meet the definition of ready, team PO should be familiarized with Scrum, and performance related. The thought being that there could be performance issues, maybe people are being lazy or whatever.
Okay. Sure, thank you. The things that you surfaced from Iceberg, in what way can they help you guys like formulate better solutions, I guess, or better alternatives for your experiment phase?
So I think they're all conversation starters, they're all avenues to explore with the team.
That's fine. Yeah. In activity 3, we're gonna probe more, even more deeper into it. So yeah, that might help.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Anthony, group 12 would love to share. Go ahead, Anthony. So group 12 is in, what slide is that? Is that slide 12?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're sharing slide 12, basically, we came up with the we came up with the COVID stuff around people who are assembling in large groups and protesting lockdown and not wearing masks or distancing or sanitizing.
Yeah,
right?
That's really interesting.
And the pattern was behind it we saw was that some people insist on their right not to practice infection control and they're inciting others to do the same, right? And if we go down to the systemic structures, what do we see taking place? We say authoritarian controls being imposed on an authority skeptic society, particularly, you know, we love our freedom, that social license, that social buy-in is not being bought. And then because of the nature of epidemics, the short-term pain is being felt for longer than people are willing to bear it. Now, those who disagree might say it's not short-term pain, and they might be right. But at least initially, it's sold as short-term pain to get a community infection under control, and people are going, "No, this is too long. I can't stand this," right? And then if we dipped into the mental models, the clear and obvious one that jumps out, which is really hard to argue with because it's irrationally based, is it's a conspiracy and people just want control of us, which we think behind that may be I have no control over what's going on. Maybe if I'm aware of something that other people aren't, maybe I can feel in control. There was also a positive, you know, it's a way for insurance companies to profiteer, you know, change the terms of engagement, especially around medical insurance, etc. The other one was from at a social level, is about it's not my problem. I'm not sick. It's everyone else's problem. Why should I be impacted? Right, which brought that deeper level question of where do our individual rights peter out and our collective responsibilities start, right? So that's really, really, these are really challenging questions that are being thrown at us. So yeah, that's where we started, and that's where we engaged. But we also acknowledge that, like, from a conspiracy theorist perspective, they've held on to this such a deeply held, almost irrational belief that reason isn't the way out of it. There's something else that needs to happen. And again, it's on some of the previous coaching presentations we've had around shared context and around the information that people are taking in and how you can make tiny injections into how people change their filters. That's it.
Thank you for sharing. It's a very interesting, I saw it, I was moving around and I saw it and I said, wow. It kind of also brings to the issue, the question of like education, right? If you think more deeply about it and you look into the systemic structures, the educational component is part of that. So yeah, thank you guys. Very interesting. So this is what we do because we're short of time and I want you guys to go through the third activity also. So you can see the build-up, right? So first is a taste of what the habits are, thinking more deeply, and then a couple of tools to use to be able to bring these back to your teams, right? So you can do this in your retrospectives, for example, to examine recurring impediments, right? Let us move on to the third one. And this is the most, it can be potentially confusing at the start, but you just keep on practicing it. And at the start, there's no right or wrong here. Just put something on paper if you want to draw on paper, or on the slide if you want to do it. So I'm going to start with an example. We are going to go into the loop thinking. So if we examine the 6 habits over here, the 7 habits that I pointed out, one of them says the systems thinker identifies the circular nature or relationships of things or components, right? If you cause one thing to change here, it's going to cause another thing to change here, and it's going to feed back to the other components. So let me illustrate that here in this diagram. So this is the causal loop diagram. I'm going to explain B and R later on, but let's start with this one, problem. Oh, let me see if the animation works now, and the screen share also. Sorry. Okay, are you seeing a blank screen? Yeah, a blank screen, or like the slide? You guys seeing the slide?
Yep, seeing the slides.
We see the slide.
Yeah, so B and R, we'll discuss this later, but we start with a problem or a symptom, and you actually create a fix to it, kind of like the tardiness and absences, and then the fix feeds back into it. And there are unintended consequences to your fix too. So it looks like this. And that even feeds it back further into the problem. So let me give you an example of tardiness and leaves over here. And the fix that we wanted to make was, let's require go to work early, like strict policy, and measure hours at work. Okay. And we already know that this is problematic, right? Because sure, it might cause in like the medium term and immediately, it might cause more people coming in at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., right? But as time goes by, you observe more tardiness happening. So in a causal loop diagram, a movement in one component creates a movement in another component. And there are 2 ways to cause that movement. One is a simple or a straight movement, meaning if you increase if you increase the policy, make it more strict, then it might create more tardiness. That's what it's saying here, right? I'm increasing my policy, but it's only creating more tardiness and leaves. And we can eventually change this to, it becomes actually attrition. It becomes attrition, right? People start to leave, like, exit. They quit. So that's the unintended consequence over here. Strict attendance. And the more attrition that you create, the more tardiness that's happening. So that's the straightforward relationship. The other relationship is an opposite. So if you increase this, it's going to decrease this. It's not applicable in this case. But what happens is this thing here is called the balancing loop, the inner, the top circle, because now the policy is causing a reduction in the tardiness and the leaves, because now you have a policy. So it's a balancing loop. And then there's a reinforcing loop. The reinforcing loop is actually causing growth or decrease or decay. Okay, so as you go through this loop, you are creating an unintended consequence, which is to increase the tardiness and the leaf. That's what this story is saying, this diagram. So again, balancing loop, let's start with the reinforcing loop. Reinforcing loop causes increase or a growth or a decay or a reduction. It's a decay, yeah. A balancing loop causes things to stabilize, right? So for your activity, you may want to continue the case that you discussed previously and create a very simple causal loop diagram. The slides contain, so I'm going to show the slide. So for activity 3, the slide contains this template. And then think of a case again. It can be the case that you discussed previously, and then put it here. The next step to this, if you have time, you can jump straight to finding a solution. So right now, the fix isn't working, right? This fix of strict attendance is actually causing more attrition, the unintended consequence, right? How do you fix this? So you can use all of the tools that you've learned here. The iceberg principle, examining mental models or assumptions. If you want to propose a solution, then you can change the boxes here. You can use this example and propose a solution, or you can use the example that you used previously in your group. Okay. Any questions? So it looks okay. Yeah, we can start the breakout again. And again, this breakout is for another 15 minutes.
Just FYI.
Yeah, sorry. Jace?
Your work area is on view only, and just FYI in case that's
a
problem.
I thought I fixed that. Yeah, let me fix it again. I fixed it. Okay, thank you for that. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Ooh, yeah, it went back.
15 minutes, did you say?
Yeah, yeah. Do we have enough time? Yeah.
Can you please paste that link directly into the chat?
Yes, we'll do it now. Please copy.
Yeah. And do you need any time to summarize afterwards, Ruben? Or maybe we can make it 12 minutes.
Yeah, let's make it 12 minutes so we can have a summary. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, boss. No worries.
Everyone, did you get the link? Oh, it's still back to. Oh, okay, now it's in edit. Okay. Let me know if there's a problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll send you off now.
Yep. Welcome back. Oh, they're just trickling down.
Yeah.
So did you have interesting discussions, guys?
Yes.
All right. Coming in fast. there's a lot of things to unpack when we talk about systems thinking, and I apologize because it's too much to cram in one session. So I just wanted to give you a taste of what's going on, and then at the end of the deck, there's actually additional links which you can use to further investigate this type of analysis. Okay? Should we start, Chase? I guess everyone's here, or?
We have 73 back in the room. I think we can.
That's a quorum.
Yeah, I think people dropped out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, let's continue. So I went into the discussion rooms, and I realized I wasn't able to feed another example in the diagram. So if you want to break the loop, basically what we were talking about was a quick fix. This one. The quick fix that creates more problems. This is that model. It's a pattern or an archetype from systems thinking, and there's a link to it later on. You can read. There's templates in the Waters Center for Systems Thinking. You'll find a lot of templates there and workshops that you can go through and learn more about it. And it can be counterintuitive. So one of the questions from the group was like more about the balancing and reinforcing loop. Let me give an example, which is a classic example. Bugs after deployment. And the quick fix we often do for this is actually reduce, hire more testers, right? Some of you are smiling, right? So now what's the unintended consequence of this?
More bugs.
Find more bugs.
It actually creates more bugs, right? More bugs. So what's happening is the bugs after deployment, the analysis was not rooted in like root cause. We weren't doing iceberg. So, and we were only addressing the surface level, which is events, right? And we tried to address the events by hiring more people to find the bugs, right? So the mental model there is we need more people to find the bugs and flag them. Compare this to a mental model that says we need to stop the bugs by actually hiring better developers or like training our developers to really have clean code and like and really practice like in a sprint. We must the whole team must come together and work together to fix all the issues before actually the end of the sprint, and not in the next sprint and not in a testing sprint, etc. Right? Within the sprint, let's develop and fix all the bugs that we find, which requires actually reducing the stories or the backlog items that you put into the sprint. That's actually a better solution for it. So the top circle is a balancing loop because and it's temporary because after you hire more testers, it actually creates a solution. It fixes the bugs, right? More people are identifying the bugs. So now it's fine, but only up to a certain point in time, because now there are more features being released because they found out the stakeholders found out, oh, now they're fixing the bugs, so let's add more features per sprint, and that's gonna cause more problems because we're not fixing the issue at the root cause. So what you do is you introduce a control to break the loop. And there are several things here possible, right? Like hire better developers, that's one, or train developers to be cross-functional. The typical problem in the Scrum team is the developers say, I'm only here to program, I don't want to test, right? And they're mostly idle towards the end of the sprint, or they are going to the next set of backlog and they're pulling there and doing more programming, which causes a bottleneck to QA. So this is what we need to do to break this balancing loop. And we can put it here to reinforce or decrease the quality. So this becomes like a quality issue. So you can see it's also cyclical the way I'm creating the map, because it's just a way for you to start thinking and then revise it, which kind of reflects in a way Scrum, right? Like we have a hypothesis, that's our plan. We need to test that with our customers. And then we need to go back and fix it. Oh, there's a lot of jokes coming out. We will close the story and add the bugs to the bug bin. Okay, yes, I've seen this. We actually had, in some of the teams I've gone through, they actually have a separate JIRA for bugs that got identified, and there's a queue for that. And there's another sprint to do it at the start. And it got so complex because they had 2 sprints, one overlapping the other. There was a development sprint and a fixing sprint. So it's kind of like a waterfall. And I said, how many teams are you using? Well, just one team. So one team was doing 2 sprint backlogs. So it's, okay, so simplify. So any interesting things that came out of the discussion? And are we out of time, Jay? Sorry.
Yeah, we are. We are out of time, but I didn't want to cut you off at the same time.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone. Just visit the last portion of the slide. There are more things to do there. And I apologize to the next speaker. So thank you.